everyone and welcome back to my channel BethChatsBooks. So today I'm going to do a recent book purchase book haul. So I actually thought I'd already done this, and turns out when I've just scrolled that I haven't done this. But I feel like I've been a bit strange with filming recently because I had my iPad and my laptop over at Paul's for a while, and I've been looking into doing some future courses that I might need to do for counselling and other things, so I've been quite distracted. So I actually thought I had done this, but it turns out I haven't. But if I have, clearly this is repeated content, but if it is and you're like, I definitely saw this already, then you can just click over, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to get involved in this book haul. So the first book that I bought was Adele by Layla Slimani. So I read Lullaby by Layla Slimani a while back now. And this was actually her first book, I believe, but it wasn't translated until after Lullaby. So this follows Adele, who is a kind of sex addict, I believe is what you call it. And she lives in Paris, and I've heard from a lot of people that have read it that she kind of has to have sex, but it's not raunchy, it's quite violent and it's quite upsetting, and I know she gets herself into situations that can be very dangerous and quite uncomfortable to read about when she tries to have these encounters. I believe there's some kind of thrill element that she likes, putting herself in that danger zone. But she has a husband, I believe, and I think she has a child, and it's kind of this unravelling and kind of looking at this addiction in a realistic light. So I was really intrigued to pick this up. So I have done finally. So then the next one, I bought these all bulk and I got a bit excited because there was only a couple that I actually wanted to buy, and then I got distracted. So the next one is a prime example of that. So that's the Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. Now I picked this up because I believe I saw Harriet. I always pronounce it wrong and I can't remember over the top of my head, but I'll link it down below. So Harriet's channel, she mentioned this one quite recently because I think she read it, and I remember her saying how Chuck Palahniuk, how his introduction was really chauvinistic and sexist and disgusting, and I remember finding that really amusing. I remember hearing all about the Stepford Wives. It's a very common, classic kind of citation in films and in books, and a reference point for a lot of things, and I've never actually read it. I didn't realise it was a book, and I've never watched it, but everyone says it's really good, and this is tiny, so I thought maybe I'd give it a go. And all of these books I bought second hand through Amazon, so it was pretty cheap, and I just thought, why not? So the next one I bought was Water Shall Refuse Them by Lucy McKnight Hardy. Now everybody's been raving about this. This is a beautiful book actually. It feels really lovely, which I didn't expect. Especially being second hand, they all smell brand new, all of these books, like no one's ever touched them. So this one, I know people said it's kind of set in summer. It's set in the heat wave of 1976 and follows a 16-year-old, and I believe that her sister has died, and they kind of go to this summer home, her and her parents, and it's all about the grieving process. A lot of people said this is very visceral, the descriptions in it, and it's kind of that hazy summer vibe, so I know it's probably the wrong time of year to be reading it, but I think at some point, obviously once I've got through my library haul, I'll get to it, because I like being on top of a hype, you see, not past it, so we'll see how that goes. And then the next one is The Redwood by Sarah Henstra. Now this was purely a buy because the girls over at What Page Pod Are You On, Bethany Rutter and Alice Slater, rave about this book, and I tried finding all of these books at the library and they didn't have them, and I really wanted to read them, so I have ended up just relenting and buying them. But like I said, I bought them all second hand, and this is quite a chunky, well made book actually, but it feels really sturdy and the pages feel really nice. So I don't actually know much about what this is about. It says when university student Karen wakes up from a fraternity party on the lawn of Raghurst, a house of radical feminists, she gets a crash course in anti-frat activism on campus. One frat house, GBC, is especially notorious, with several brothers named on a list of date rapists by female students. So that sounds really interesting, and not at all what I expected this book to be about. Then again, I am really terrible because I get influenced by other people, I get influenced by BookTube, and I never actually bothered to research what the book is about before I buy it. because I'm a terrible person. And obviously by these terrible synopsises that I've done for these books, you can tell I don't know that much. But anyway, that sounds really interesting. I think this is a bit of a chunky, thick book. But ironically, it's thickly made and it looks huge, but it is only just over 300 pages. So probably is one that I'll actually, if it's really gripping like it says it is, I'll get through it pretty quickly. So there's that one. And then the next one was basically why this whole haul started in the first place, and that was the book Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. Again, tried looking at the library, but I think it's too hot off the press really for my little Lancashire library to have got it. So this is about 3 different women's perspectives of their sex lives in America, and Lisa Taddeo's kind of made this non-fiction fiction, if you like, because I believe it is non-fiction, but it's very gripping and readable like fiction about their sex lives, and it's a discussion of kind of sex and gender and women and their relationship to sex in modern day America. So it sounds really, really interesting. I know some of these are quite audacious stories. For example, one of the ladies, her husband enjoys watching her have sex with other people. One of them talks about a relationship she had when she was underage with a teacher. So I know some of these are a bit raunchy and a little bit explicit. I'm really here for it. A lot of people have loved this book, and I really, really think it's something I'll enjoy. So I'm really hoping that it lives up to the hype. And Elizabeth Gilbert has got a quote that says, "A masterpiece at the same level as In Cold Blood." And that is the best non-fiction I've ever read. But it's kind of a fictionalised non-fiction, which I think this is going for as well. Which kind of, that fiction was still a story, and I believe that this is very similar. So I'm really, really excited to get to this one. And then the final book in the book haul is The Trial of Lizzie Borden by Cara Robertson. So I picked this up because I've tried everywhere to get a copy of this. This has been on my radar for quite a while actually, but then I've seen a few American booktubers have started reading this and reviewing it. So again, this is a non-fiction about a real trial of Lizzie Borden, who they accused in the 1800s, I want to say. Yeah, in the 19th century, of killing her, I think she was a maid, was she? And she killed the family. Was she the daughter? Anyway, she's accused of a murder. Yeah, the arrest of the couple's daughter, Lizzie. Yeah, so she's accused of her parents' murder. And so this is a true story non-fiction, but people that have loved it have said it's kind of got that story element. Some people have criticised it that it's a lot of fact, less gripping, engaging, but if it's a non-fiction it's probably going to do that. And maybe this case is more to people who are actually interested in the history of the case more than a fiction, more than people who enjoy fiction and kind of want a story. Because I remember one American booktuber who's recently read it said the content was really interesting, but you can tell the person who wrote it doesn't write stories, it's not in that storyteller vibe. But I'm a history graduate as well as an English graduate, so I might quite like the facts and the case and how it is. And it's always fascinated me. I've listened to true crime podcasts on this, and I've read true crime books, and I've listened to true crime podcasts. I'm a little bit of a true crime podcast geek. I love They Walk Amongst Us, the podcast. So I feel like I'll actually really enjoy this, so we'll see, and I'll let you know. And then obviously, like I mentioned in my last video, I did try to order I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, but it didn't happen, so I managed to get it from my library. So they're all the books that I've recently acquired, which isn't that excessive, and that's because I've been using my library a lot more at the moment and really enjoying that process. I think people should be using the libraries more, and I could do an entire video on that, but I'm not going to bore you because obviously I do that enough with my tediously long videos as it is. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.